for our spiritual food. By his hand, we all are fed. Right now, give us, Lord, our daily bread. Amen.
Amen.
Hey, New Philly. I miss y'all.
Miss you too.
So, just real quick, I missed November. I missed our anniversary, right? I missed the church anniversary because I'm doing a lot of traveling and stuff. And I didn't make it here, and that bothered me. I didn't, talk to anybody about it, but it bothered me. It bothered me that I wasn't here. And so I had an event last Sunday when we were leaving. I told Daddy, I was like, well, if you need me to preach, I'll be in town to preach. And he was like, well, I need you. And I was like, all right, cool. So I actually had an event that I had to speak at yesterday in Atlanta. But I knew if I told my daddy that, he'd tell me, don't worry about it, just come back the following weekend. I was like, no, I really gotta get.
He wouldn't have told you that.
He wouldn't have told me that.
No, he would have told you to come on back as quickly as possible.
I wanted to get back. See, synchronicity. I wanted to get back as soon as possible. Before bringing this word, I just want to say, and it's been put on my heart, to constantly thank New Philadelphia for what each of you, individually and collectively, have been to Aundrae Gaskin. Because you've been in my life all my life.
Amen.
Pretty much all of you have been in my life all my life. And at one of the most remarkable years of my own personal life, and the things that I've been able to do this year is all because of New Philadelphia.
All right now.
The constant prayers,
Amen.
the constant faith you have in me, the constant belief you instill in me, the constant lessons that I've learned throughout my life just being around you all.
Amen.
So every time I stand in this pulpit, it's not even to give a sermon, it's just to give a thank you. This is like the most nervous I ever am in front of y'all, because I feel like I'm speaking to the people that taught me. You know what I'm saying? And it's super humbling to feel that as one of the youngest people in the building, every time I stand up here, you all learn from me.
Amen.
And that empowers me to go teach others. And I don't teach them from a book or a text or anything else. I teach them from the lessons that I've learned growing up
All right.
from you all. So thank you. I get that out of the way.
All right.
Now, to the task at hand. Last Sunday, what did we hear about? Anybody remember?
Jesus' mama.
Yeah.
Jesus'
Your
mama.
mama.
Jesus, your mama.
Jesus, your mama. Talking about who? Mary. And the Christ child, right? And during that sermon, I was sitting and listening, and Dad made light of a moment where Joseph had dreams just like, or an angel came to Joseph just like an angel came to Mary. And as he was talking, I was thinking like, that was essential, right? Because he shed light on it. Had Joseph not been informed of what was going on,
Say that.
from a divine standpoint, he had no reason to stay in that situation.
That's right.
And from a man's perspective, right, it's one thing to date somebody with a baby.
That's right.
It's It's a whole other thing to date somebody carrying a baby. Does that make sense? It further complicates things when the person that you're dating that's holding the baby just happens to be holding the Messiah. You feel what I'm saying?
Oh boy, that's good.
So just as important as the decision
That's good.
for God to choose Mary, it was equally important for God to choose a great male figure
Yes, yes, amen.
for Jesus to be raised up under.
Right.
So he could not only be in tune to the Spirit of the Lord through their spiritual relationship, but also be in tune to the Lord due to the physical relationship with a physical father that also had a spiritual relationship.
That's right.
So when Daddy mentioned the angels visiting Joseph, he said, but that's another sermon for another day. Well, today is the day for the other sermon. So for a few minutes, we're going to talk about Jesus, your daddy.
Boy, I tell you.
All right, boy.
See, during the Advent season, and it's no fault of anyone's, right? Because there's so many great stories in the Bible that it's difficult. Even if you're reading for your own entertainment, for your own study, it's difficult to lock in on all the stories of the Bible because there's so many, right? But during the Advent season, we constantly lock in on the story of Mary. We constantly lock in on the story of the Jesus child. But there's a pivotal denominator in that equation, which is Joseph. The father in this whole, the earthly father in this whole situation, right? Because we know what moms do. Moms nurture. Moms love. Moms are there no matter what, in any shadow of any doubt, and their belief in the child that they rear is only second to the belief that God has in us.
That's right. Amen.
But fathers serve a different role in life. Fathers serve as the example, right? That's what you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be the example of hard work. You're supposed to be the example of discipline. You're supposed to set a certain example for the children that you have. So it was God's task to find the perfect person, the perfect father, to be the earthly representation of him spiritually.
That's right.
So that Jesus had the proper path both on earth as it is in heaven.
All right.
To be able to ultimately fulfill his duty to die for our sins.
Right.
So just as if there would be no Jesus if there was no Mary,
That's right, man.
there would be no Jesus if there was no Joseph.
Amen. All right.
Y'all catching what I'm pitching?
Yeah.
Y'all following me?
Go ahead.
So what are the characters that God had to see in Joseph in order for him to say, Joseph is it? And what are those characters that we can also apply in our own lives, both men and women, to enhance our spiritual testosterone? Y'all got me? What are the characters we can also apply from Joseph to enhance our spiritual testosterone in order to be more paternal, both men and women, right? To the next generation of believers.
Amen.
The next generation of followers of Christ. In order to empower our own lives, but also to empower the lives that are coming after.
Amen.
That's right.
Amen.
All right.
Y'all catching what I'm pitching?
Amen.
The three characteristics. One is radical love. How did Joseph set forth an example or display, right? Radical love. We always hear about unconditional love, right? Love in spite of. But radical love is love for no reason, right? Love with no limits, right? There's no cap on what I'm willing to do because I love you so much. Not unconditional love, which is there's nothing you can do to make me not love you. That's different, right?
Right.
Unconditional love, there's nothing you can do to make me not love you. Radical love is there's no limit, no cap that you cannot. This is agape, infinite, New Philadelphia love.
All right.
No rhyme to it, no reason for it, other than the fact that I love you so much that I'm willing to do whatever is put before me to display my love for you.
Absolutely nothing you can do.
And nothing you can do about it. Right. What did that love look like for Joseph? We already talked about one part, which was the fact that Joseph because the angel came, right? But there's nothing that says just because the angel came and told Joseph that it was okay to marry Mary, that he had to do it. Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that?
Yes.
Just because the angel came and told Joseph does not mean that Joseph had to adhere to what the angel said.
That's right.
Joseph, just like us, had a choice.
Amen.
But because of his love for God, his love for Mary, because remember, before the angel came, Joseph was thinking about this thing.
Yeah, he was.
So it wasn't cut and dry, he was done, that just because Mary was pregnant, that he wasn't going to marry her. He just didn't know how to go about it. Should I leave? Should I stay? If I decide to stay, should we stay? Because remember, he was like, well, how do I get her out of this situation? Because I don't want her to be judged.
Right.
That's love. That's radical love. Because many of us in that same situation is like, bro.
Say it.
Thank you, Angel, for the information. I'm well informed. But upon further review,
Peace.
I'm a single man in these streets. Well, I'm gonna tie myself up in all of this. He got married. She a virgin. She pregnant with the Christ child. God all involved, like, nah, I'm too rich for me. I'll go. Okay? But because of radical love for God, Mary, and his unborn son.
Yeah.
Because you can't tell me that once that angel departed from him and Joseph had some congruence, right? It was some clarity as to what was going on. Joseph was like, well, God, that may be your son up there. But I know you're giving him to me for him to be my son down here.
Yeah.
So for radical love's sake,
That's right.
he stayed with Mary. For radical love's sake, he got them to a manger, a safe place, right? Because it was right. We talked about it before. Ain't no Motel 6s back then. Wasn't nowhere to leave the light on for you. There was not a Holiday Inn Express. They was roughing it, for real. Right? So to be able to be a single man, right? Or a man with no child, no nothing, right? And to take on the responsibility to create safety for a woman that you've never known, y'all get what I'm saying, right? And a baby that you don't know, ain't nothing but radical love that can prove why or can explain why someone would do something that way. Radical love. Number 2, unconditional obedience. Unconditional obedience. Number 1, the angel comes, stay with Mary. Right? Stay with Mary, he stays. But what we haven't talked about is there's 3 other dreams in Matthew that Joseph had during this time period. There's 3 other dreams. All 3 of those dreams were about them moving. I don't remember exactly right now in this moment, but one move to Egypt, right? One move out of Israel, and then another move back to Bethlehem.
Okay.
Right? So there were... I love it.
I was trying to whisper.
I love it. So there was 3 other dreams. And those 3 other dreams were in order because now God and Joseph are in sync. Does that make sense?
Yep.
God understands, okay, if he stayed for this based off radical love, then he's just as invested in this child as I am. Meaning that just as me, the Heavenly Father, wants to keep my child and Mary safe, Joseph wants to keep my child and Mary safe. So those 3 dreams to go in and out of danger, right? Because that's basically what it was. Those dreams were to move them out of harm's way, right? But again, he didn't have to agree.
That's right.
At any point in time, Joseph could have been like, all right, God, you doing too much. I done stayed with the girl. Like, look, can we just have the baby born already, have Christmas, bring presents, and everything's good? We just gonna have Christmas now. That's done. Right? He could have.
Yeah.
Like, why not? But Joseph decided, no matter what you tell me to do, unconditional, I'm going to do it. Obedience. You know best.
Right.
I'm taking all my signals from the tower at this point.
Right.
Because all of this started out of my hands. This started out of my hands. It was way over Joseph's pay grade to be dealing with pregnant Mary from God and every everything else was going on, right?
All right now.
That like, bruh. I don't see how he did it. He's amazing.
Amen. Yes, it is.
Unconditional obedience.
Yes.
And then number 3. No, I want to ask you a question. What is it right now in this moment that you know God has been telling you to do or move on that you have not done because you're afraid of what the outcome may look like? You don't have to answer. I just wanted you to think about it. What is something, because we all struggle in our own ways with obedience. We all do, right?
Amen.
But the reason we struggle with obedience is because we, in our subconscious, we're trained to be adversity averse. Does that make sense? To go away from adversity.
Right.
To go to go away from danger, to go away from pain, to go away from risk. Does that make sense? We're conditioned to do that in order to keep ourselves safe. So now there's a collision between science, which is what I just explained, and the infinite, which is God, right? And since we don't know, because everything in the middle of that is great, since we don't know what the outcome could be from us moving on that thing that's in our gut, right? That thing that's in our spirit that we've been told time and time again to move on, but we won't move on it because we don't know what the end looks like.
That's right.
And the end could be adverse.
That's right.
The end could be pain. The end could be something we don't want to deal with, so we don't move. Right?
Right. I know where you're going.
But in order to have unconditional obedience, you also have to have unconditional faith.
Yeah.
All right.
It is.
And your unconditional faith can be exercised by remembering all the other times that you were nervous about doing something, you were afraid to do something, and finally you got over yourself long enough to do that thing. And God positioned you in the proper place at the proper time to be prosperous. Right. Number 3. The hardest thing a father has to do is the one thing that no father knows they have to do until another father tells them to do it.
That's good, boy. That's good.
Wow.
That's good.
The last thing
That's profound.
that has to happen is something that no father knows they need to do until another father tells them they need to do it. I'm going to give you a story. If you don't know by now, I have 2 kids 13 days apart. If you don't know by now,
Yeah, we know.
right? If you're well versed on the story, you'll know that was a hard time for me personally. And I didn't want to share it. And it had to come out the way it did because I wasn't going to say anything. Like, I was mortified to tell any member of my family that not only did I have one child out of wedlock, but 2.
13
And they're not far apart at all.
Amen.
And we had this conversation before, but after this is when it hit me. So my dad called me. There was a photo. I forget exactly how it came about, honestly. But anyway, my dad ended up seeing a photo of Peyton somehow, right? I think because I went for a birthday or something. Somebody tagged me or something. I don't know. But anyway, he drew the proper conclusion that Peyton was my child as well. And he called me, which I imagine had to be a pretty difficult call for a dad calling his child because it's backwards. But anyway, he called me and he was like, son, something you want to tell me? No, not that I can think of. There's nothing that popped out of my mouth. Everything's fine. Why do you ask? And he was like, I saw, you were tagged in this picture, or whatever the explanation was, because I forget the exact situation. But I was like, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
Completely slipped my mind. Completely slipped my mind. I just got back from my 1-year-old's birthday party, but don't worry about it. It's okay you missed it because you didn't know about it. So we're talking because now he got me talking now. So I tell him what's going on or whatever. And somehow he's able to actually process that enough in that moment for him to be able to say to me, well, as fathers, first he told me a story. The story is, at a point in time during my childhood, or when I was about to come into the world, Granddaddy told my daddy that good luck doesn't come to men who don't take care of their children.
Okay.
Right? So that's how the story started. Because if you know my dad is always reminded me, make sure you're a father.
Amen.
Period.
Amen.
Make sure you're a father.
Amen.
Like things are going to happen, but make sure you're present and taking care of those children.
Amen. Right. Amen.
So that's how the story started. How it ended was him telling me, because I'm freaking the heck out. Like, I'm a mess in this current moment. Like, all I'm thinking about, my auntie gonna be embarrassed, my grandparents gonna be embarrassed, I done embarrassed my daddy. Like, that's all I'm thinking about. And he was like, look, fathers always make the adjustment. That's a father's job. To make the adjustment. No matter what the problem is, you make the adjustment.
Amen. That's right.
You don't have to complain about it. You don't. If you got to get it off your chest, get it off your chest. But to someone who cares, you don't got to be happy about it. You're gonna be mad about it sometimes, but you have to make the adjustment. And the adjustments that come with fatherhood are different and coming at you 100 miles an hour.
Yes, Lord.
So if you don't know, or if you haven't been told by another father to make the adjustment, then you don't know to make the adjustment, and it doesn't make you aware of the adjustments that have to be made. But Joseph was downloaded with the adjustment gene because he was chosen to be a father.
That's right.
By the Heavenly Father.
That's right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So because he was positioned in order to care for the Christ child, part of the tools in his parenting tool belt now is being able to make the adjustment. But make the adjustment not for adjustment's sake, but make the adjustment due to your radical love and unconditional.
There it is. Yes, sir.
produce.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So we need to think about the adjustment. Don't worry about the problem. God has already handled the problem.
Yeah.
The problem was handled before the foundation of the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
The problem was handled when God made the decision to choose Mary and to choose Joseph to bring the Christ child into the world.
Yeah.
So the Christ child could live his 33 years.
Yeah.
He could perform miracles.
Yeah.
He could change lives.
Yeah.
He could impact the world.
Yeah.
And then he could die so that we could come on this planet and do the very same thing.
Yeah.
Because God said so.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There's problems that stood in everyone's way.
Yes.
Noah was old when he was told to build an ark, but he made the adjustment.
Right.
Mary was a virgin when she got pregnant with Jesus,
Yes.
but she made the adjustment.
That's right. That's right.
Joseph, in no shape, form, or fashion, had any business being in that situation. But in order to display
Yeah.
his radical
Yes.
love
Yes.
and his unconditional obedience, he had to make the adjustment.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the problem.
That thing that God, see, I'm saying this because we're in the Advent season.
Yeah.
We're celebrating birth.
Yeah.
And we're celebrating the birth of Mary and her giving birth to Christ. But also in that same vein, what we should be thinking about is the blessing that God has us pregnant with.
Yeah.
What's the gestation period on your blessing?
All right.
What type of person do you need to be in order to parent that blessing that's in your gut
Yeah.
the proper way?
Yeah.
How are you going to display
What?
your radical love
Yeah.
and your unconditional obedience
Yeah.
in order to make the adjustment
Yeah.
to give birth to the blessing that God has inside
All
of
right.
you?
All right.
All right. Glory.
All right. All right.
The adjustment.
Wow.
You're already pregnant with the power to change your finances.
Yeah.
But you gotta make the adjustment.
Yeah.
You're already pregnant with the ability to grow your personal and romantic relationships. But you gotta make the adjustment.
That's right.
You're already in the position to have the career or to have the success that you want because you're pregnant with it. But you have to be able to make the adjustment.
That's right.
Yeah.
You have to make adjustments.